Check Podcasts. Hi, I'm Bruce Williams. I'm the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer of the Greater Victoria Chamber of Commerce. And welcome to Chamber Chats, coming to you as always from here in the podcasting studios at the Czech Media Group, one of our chamber champions. I will acknowledge, as always, that I live and work in the ancestral lands of the Lekwungen-speaking nations known to us as the Songhees and the Esquimalt. Chamber Chats is made possible by the support of Island Savings, a division of First West Credit Union, who are changing what banking can do for people, for community, and for the world. Okay, so in our day-to-day world, when you follow the news cycle and things that affect business and workforce, one of the things that's foremost in all of those conversations is housing. We talk about housing when it concerns people who are unhoused, the affordability for families. The part of housing that we don't talk about quite enough maybe is real estate, because housing is real estate for those that are in the market of buying and selling. So today, we're going to talk about real estate with a couple of real estate professionals. Joining us today, Tessa Strong, who's with Tessa Strong Real Estate. Tessa, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks, Bruce. How are you?
Good, thank you. And Tony Joe is with us as well. You're the owner of, I know it's Remax Island Properties, but also Prime Realty. Is that right?
Yeah, the Prime Real Estate team is my team, and we are under the real estate brokerage of Remax Island Properties in Duncan Mill Bay in Victoria.
Very cool. Okay. Tessa, interesting thing about you. You're a realtor. You're also an accountant. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so after going to university where I got my Bachelor of Commerce degree, I did go into accounting and I worked on getting my CPA for a couple of years and worked at a large accounting firm before making the switch over to real estate.
So that helps your clients better understand the dollars and cents of this whole thing, right?
Yes, definitely. Having a financial background has definitely helped my clients in the past.
Yeah. Okay, Tony, you've been at this for a while. You've seen ups and downs, cycles in the economy. The most recent thing, of course, has been the inflation that's led to the increase in house prices and the interest rate wobble. How much has that impacted things in the last, I'm going to say, 5 years?
A lot. I mean, we also had that thing in between, that whole COVID situation.
Oh, that pandemic
there.
thing, yes.
That pandemic thing, yeah. That was an interesting one, because we in the real estate industry at the time, I mean, nobody knew what was going on. And at the point in time where it was determined that real estate was an essential service, I think we were all surprised. When we look at the stats, back in April of 2020, of course, sales ground to a halt. There was all of 247 sales in Victoria that month. And we were all concerned about what was going to happen in the near future. But as everyone knows, it just went crazy from there. People all of a sudden started thinking about working from home and, no more commute and all that. Interest rates, of course, got down to places where we'll never see again. And as a result, there was a buying feeding frenzy. We had so many people coming from out of town, not only people who've always had the eye to move to Victoria, but also those who were from Victoria and they went to, Toronto or Vancouver to establish their careers. And they decided to accelerate their plan. Instead of retiring here, they brought their families. So suddenly we've got all this migration combined with the fact that we never have enough inventory. And, all we got to do is look at the prices and what's happened in the last 2 or 3 years. It is amazing. And from an affordability standpoint, which I know we'll talk about, it's been tough. It's definitely tough to get in. The average sale price of a house in Greater Victoria now is somewhere around the 1.25 area. That's a lot of money.
That's a large amount of money. And then, Tessa, when you're working with your clients, giving them financial advice as well as real estate stuff, how much has this all changed during the pandemic for you and your clients?
Yeah, well, throughout with the prices increasing, you definitely see lots of younger home buyers, first-time home buyers working with their families to get into properties nowadays. So whether that's someone gifting them some money to save for a down payment, or having parents co-sign on a property to get that extra approval for probably a 2-bedroom instead of a 1-bedroom maybe. So that's definitely had a big impact over the past couple of years.
Yeah, so when you work with that financing stuff, Tessa, people very often have the ability to carry the payments on a mortgage. But because of the price of the house, it's the down payment that's the barrier, right? So that's what you're seeing?
Yeah, definitely. And also with the increased prices of rent here in Victoria now, I find that if there's first-time home buyers looking at saving for a property for the down payment, like we're talking about, it's just tougher because it's hard to save on top of having to pay those high rent prices.
Right. Okay, Tony, here's the question of the day. Are we currently in a buyer's market or a seller's market?
It's a funny question because it's going to depend on who you ask. It's funny, you talk to any buyer, and especially if they have lost out on multiple offers or bidding wars, which we still see, by the way, they will tell you it's a seller's market. Yet on the flip side, there's a lot of sellers out there whose properties have been on the market for a while, and they're wondering what's going on. Now, we look at the absorption rates, we look at the listing inventory versus number of sales. And the stats that we use tell us that we're still in a seller's market. Like inventory wise, although we're up 50% from this time last year, we're still on the low side of things. Like we've had many like the month of May, we've had many Mays that were. Right now, we're at 3,000 listings. There have been 4,000, 4,200, 5,000 listings. So there's a lot more room for inventory. The difference is we still have a lot of demand right now. There's still a lot of people that want to come here. And, we often talk about net migration, right? As long as we have more people coming into the region here than leaving, combined with the fact that we know, we haven't built enough. This is what contributes to, Victoria being what it is. I always find it kind of funny, when people say, "Oh, I've got the idea. I want to move to Victoria."
Then they
Because
get
most
here.
everyone, yeah, and then they get here, but they thought they're the only people that had this idea. There's hordes of people before them, right? Bruce, you're an import. You're
That's
not
right.
from here,
Nope.
right?
Nope.
And it's funny because most people in Victoria have come from somewhere else. Tessa, you were born on the island, right?
Mhm.
I'm born here in Victoria, never left. At best, when I'm in an event and I ask for a show of hands, how many people born and raised never left Greater Victoria? It's never more than 5%.
Yeah.
So everyone here has come from somewhere else.
So Tessa, the same thing to you. As Tony said, it depends on who you're talking to, but buyer's market or seller's market? What's going on in your world?
Yeah, in my opinion, it also depends on the product. I find the condo market right now is a lot weaker, so it's kind of balancing between a balanced market and a buyer's market potentially. Single family homes are a different story. And yeah, I also just think people might feel from some points of view that they're in a buyer's market and have more negotiating power from the buyer side just because it feels a lot slower than it has been in the past couple of years. But like Tony said, the numbers are still leaning more towards balanced and seller's market.
Well, actually, Bruce, I do want to follow up on what Tessa said. It's
Yeah.
true, because people have short memories and they remember it was just 2 years
Mhm.
ago where everything was bidding wars, multiple offers. It was tough. And yet now we're in a far better sort of far better market conditions where buyers can actually take time and they can make choices. They can have conditions on their offers where they couldn't before, right? So, in many respects, it's not bad.
So that brings us now to the point of that, as you say, 2.5, 3 years ago, we were dealing with interest rates that were like 4 points lower than what they are now on prime. So we're going to talk about that when it comes to buying a house next. Our guests on Chamber Chats today are Tessa Strong with Tessa Strong Real Estate and Tony Joe, who's with one of the Remax outlets here, Prime Real Estate and Island Properties. So Tessa, you're an accountant, you're a realtor. People are looking at interest rates, they're trying to crunch their numbers and their money. So did that little blip, that little drop in interest rates a short time ago change anything?
Well, I think it takes a little bit of time in order to for those interest rates to actually take effect in the economy. But what it definitely does do is create more of a buzz around buying, and people are getting excited. They see the potential for the future, and maybe right now they're sitting at a pre-approval where that they're not happy with, but now they can see that potentially in the fall with upcoming rate drops hopefully as well that maybe they will be able to get into a property.
So, Tony, Tessa mentioned that condo sales are a little weak right now. During the pandemic, townhouses went up in sale and people found them more popular
Mhm.
because of the work from home thing, right? What's the story with them now?
Well, the thing about townhouses is that, we talk a lot about this whole missing middle thing. It's having more space than a condo, but being more affordable than a house. The sheer number of townhouses, there are just less out there. Like there's a lot more single family homes, there's a lot more condos. It's a great solution, in the middle, combined with Bill 44, when the rental restrictions and the age restrictions have gone away. Suddenly, townhouses are a fantastic option because, generally speaking, they're closer to amenities as well too. So, a very good option, and something that, uh, you know, as anything else, it's It's all about location. It's all about condition. And yeah, we're seeing bidding wars. We're seeing fights. Yes, but we're also seeing some good inventory has been sitting around, which I think are opportunities for people.
Hmm. Tessa, when you talk about the young people in the world that are being helped by, parents, grandparents, family money, whatever it might be, let's go to the other end. What are you seeing about seniors now who are transitioning out of sort of a family home into something smaller? What's going on with that?
Yeah, so many seniors are looking at downsizing, and if they're able to go through the sale process, well, I've recently worked with seniors moving to 55 plus homes. I mean, that's for many different reasons, sorry. And yeah, I guess it just all depends on the situation they're in. It's usually best for a senior moving through the sale process if they move into a care home to then have the property that they're listing vacant, because sometimes it's difficult always having to step out when buyers are coming to look at their property.
We saw a bunch of short-term rental properties suddenly become no longer short-term rental properties, Tony, because that was the edict from the province and then municipalities making choices around that. Has there been a glut of those appear on the market, these places that would have been Airbnbs up until now?
Well, I mean, we did see a number of properties enter the market when that announcement was first made. We had clients ourselves that sold their units specifically because of the fact that they were only used for Airbnb use or short-term vacation rental use, and they could not be used anymore. One client I can think of right now, the economics just did not work for him as far as going to the long-term rental market. So they sold, and they would otherwise have kept it. There's definitely a lot of choices though in that condo segment, specifically things that are sort of in the inner harbor and things that were short-term vacation rental use before. Um, I think a lot of people are kind of hoping or thinking that sellers will get desperate and maybe start dumping prices in those. We haven't really seen that because the other option for sellers is they just don't sell, or they'll keep it for their own use. I had somebody who has decided to do that. They're willing to pay the speculation and vacancy tax, right? Or ones that have gone to the long-term rental marketplace. The only thing that I don't think we've seen is we haven't seen a significant softening in the vacancy rate because, that I hear of from tenants is still hard to find good properties.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Tess, I'm going to ask you about this now. Tony mentioned the speculation tax, the flip tax, if you will. Has that slowed down any purchasing for people that were going to do that, buy a place and flip it right away? Because you can't do that you have to hold on to it for 2 years or you're taxed at a higher rate. So has that changed anything?
I don't necessarily think so. I haven't seen it be a big factor in people's purchasing decisions.
Okay. So the pandemic had a lot of people saying, well, should I move or should I renovate? Is that still going on, Tessa? Or still people sort of making that choice?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's so many costs involved with buying and selling. I think that if you're happy with the location you're in, then why not renovate and make the home exactly how you'd like it to be? But that being said, location is everything. So if you're looking for a change of pace of life, if you want to be closer to your kids' school, then I mean, relocating is generally the best option.
I want to go back, Tony, to something you said before about people like me who moved here 23 years ago from someplace else.
Yeah.
How much of that is going on? How much are people coming here now, despite the prices that are in
A
play in this
lot.
market? Yeah.
A lot. I get calls every week from people who are moving from out of town. And, I have been joking for years. The foreign buyers in Victoria, they're foreign to Victoria, but they're not foreigners. They are people from Ontario.
Yeah.
They're Torontonians. They're Vancouverites. They are, they're fellow Canadians. I mean, when you think about it, the government imposed the ban on foreign buyers. We got a foreign buyer tax as well too. They've done many things to control the flow of foreign purchases in the country here, but it hasn't done anything to stop the market because we still have all these people from other marketplaces that are coming here now. When you think about it, Victoria is an expensive place to be. The only other two marketplaces where Victoria looks like a deal are those coming from Toronto or those coming from Vancouver.
Hmm. Yeah.
And we saw it during COVID as well. People sold their properties in Vancouver and they moved to Victoria. The pricing is almost half. So they're either getting double the house or they're getting rid of their mortgages. And, that's been the biggest draw. And moving to a smaller city, with less traffic issues, with less sprawl, cleaner, safer, all of those things. What's not to like, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's people coming here from other parts of the world as well. Work from home means you can work from anywhere. If you're going to sell a place in Europe or someplace that's incredibly expensive, Victoria on that scale is still pretty affordable. Okay, let's talk about selling a house. What do you have to do to make sure that your house sells quickly? What sort of things should you do to the property? We'll talk about that next. We are talking real estate today on Chamber Chats with a couple of people, Tessa Strong with Tessa Strong Real Estate and Tony Joe with Prime Remax Real Estate and Remax Island Properties. I mangled that a little bit. I'm sorry, but you'll get it right for me in a second. But okay, Tessa, somebody comes to you and says, okay, I'm ready to sell. Come and look at my house. And you walk through. What sort of things do you recommend that people do to make sure that their house presents well?
Yeah, definitely. You want to make sure that your home shows its absolute best when buyers are looking at the photos online and coming through for their viewings. So, definitely recommend doing a really, really deep clean because people definitely notice. And it goes back to if this homeowner has taken care of their property beyond just cleaning the walls, for example. Completely decluttering your property is another thing, making sure that everything is neat and tidy. And you can actually use the items you already have in your home to stage your property to make it show its best. You can always get a consult from a stager in town, which helps just show the space in that way that will attract those buyers. Another thing is always curb appeal. So sometimes buyers end up driving past your home actually before going to book the viewing online and making sure they like the neighborhood. They think the house looks like they can see themselves living there. So power washing is great. Doing a little bit of gardening at the front, maybe a fresh coat of paint outside. It is really specific to the property, but I find those are generally the top tips for sellers when they're prepping their home.
Yeah, that whole using an exercise bike as a clothing rack, that's not good. You don't want that in the picture. And peeling paint and stuff like that's no good either.
Mhm.
Tony, open houses, are they still
Yes.
effective? Do they still work?
Statistically, so the National Association of Realtors, which is the sort of governing body of the real estate community in the United States, which is huge, incidentally. They have, I think, a membership of 2 million. There are more realtors in the state of Florida than there are in Canada. So,
Really?
just an example of the size. The National Association of Realtors actually does a lot of they do a lot of research, and year in, year again, year after year, the statistic on success rate of open houses sits somewhere around 1 or 2% of the reason between a buyer's purchase.
Hmm.
So it's quite interesting, where, I mean, hey, open houses have been around since the dawn of man, right? They're common. When I started 33 years ago, it was before the internet, that was before, even having photos on MLS and things like that. Do they actually sell properties? Well, I guess the question that I always ask people is, how did you buy your house? Did you walk into an open house and buy it? Because most of the time, and we know this statistically as well too, the a buyer's agent introduces them to the home. Or today, of course, we have these automated searches that people subscribe to. When they get notification, they call their agent, and the agent goes and makes the appointment. So, open houses, do they sell? Yeah, 1 or 2% of the time, perhaps.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Tessa, to go back to what you said about the curb appeal and the internal look and the pictures and all that sort of thing, there's always stuff in a property that you can't see, you know? So for that reason, a home inspection is something that needs to be considered. First of all, do financial institutions require a home inspection before they approve a mortgage? And in the big picture, it's probably a good idea anyway, right?
Yeah, home inspections are very, very important because, like you said, a house can look good, but you really want to peel back those layers and make sure everything's functioning properly and that there's no damage that could potentially cost you a lot of money down the road. So, you want to make sure your roof is in good condition. If not, you might have to start budgeting and saving up for a roof replacement. So, it's always a really good idea to get a property inspection when you're looking at purchasing a home. On the financing side of things, you don't necessarily need a property inspection to get mortgage financing, but you may need an appraisal. They might send an appraiser out to the property to do that research before going through with your mortgage.
Yeah. When we talk about this, the thing that's always been said for generations is location, location, location. So, Tony, what locations are selling most right now? Where's the most activity?
Oh, actually, that's a great question because we just did some research for Remax Canada, and we polled a number of agents locally here, and the overwhelming response was Royal Bay. Royal Bay seems to
Oh,
be the hot spot right now. Of course, most people know it's a newer development. There's some commercial down there with the supermarket and stores and everything, and very close to the beach, right? So the ocean. So that seems to be the hot spot. Followed by Gordon Head, Cordova Bay. All of the regulars. Gordon Head, of course, is always a popular spot because of the proximity to the university, right? Also to town, hospital, things like that. But yeah, I mean, Victoria in general, I can't say there's any bad spot in Victoria. And again, it's just speaking for anyone who's coming here to have a look. My goodness, I mean, it's Souk to Sydney. It's all good here.
yeah. And you cover outside of Victoria. And Tessa, you do a lot in Cowichan as well. Tell me about Cowichan. What's going on there?
Yeah, so properties are definitely moving there. They're mostly single family homes in the Cowichan Valley area. I know Shawnigan is quite a popular spot for more summer properties, vacation properties. It's a beautiful area to spend those hot sunny days. And I know Lake Cowichan actually has grown in popularity in the past couple of years as well.
I want to add though
Oh,
too, Bruce.
yeah.
When the government imposes speculation and vacancy tax on the Cowichan Valley, it is saying something. It is saying that they see it as being, another area of growth, right?
Yeah. So when you look at a property being listed and there's offers coming in, Tony, you referenced this earlier. What's the percentage of conditional versus, what's it, firm versus
Yeah.
conditional?
Okay. So for multiple offers, oh my goodness, I I think this year, so for 2024, almost all of them have conditions, even the multiples. I've probably had maybe 4 or 5 unconditional firm deals this year, as opposed to all of them back in 2021, right? So it is common nowadays for multiple offers to have conditions on them. We are still seeing properties selling above list price, even ones that have conditions,
Yeah.
right? So it's just a matter of the demand, right?
Tessa, what's the best way to find a realtor?
Yeah, I would say getting a personal recommendation. If you have friends or family who have had great success and a great relationship with their realtor, usually that's a great way to go.
Well, I would recommend both of you from the very beginning here because because your relationship with the chamber and all the rest of it. But it's really quite a thing. I'm a bit of a real estate nerd, as Tony knows. He's known me for years. That's one of my hobbies is cruising realtor.ca just to see what's out there. That's what I do. So it keeps me informed on what's
You're
happening out
you're
there.
not alone. You're not alone. People love their real estate.
Yeah, I'll bet they do. It's
Yeah.
fun. Uh, thanks for being here. I'm Bruce Williams. We'll see you again for another Chamber Chat.